Hello, Joe.
It's an absolute pleasure to have you on today, and we appreciate you taking the time. Your travel schedule is one that many of us would never even understand, but you're on the way to Wisconsin, and you're going to stay there until the primary on Tuesday, right?
Yes, I am. I'll be there for the entire time, and I look forward to that. I think it'll be a fantastic few days, and I've been there a few days last week, and spending a lot of time in Wisconsin. The people are great, and I think they get it. I think they understand what's going on with the country. We're getting killed by trade. We're getting killed by everything we do. We're protecting all of these countries. We don't get paid for it, or we get paid very little relative to what we're spending. And we have a country that's going bust. And we're going bust. I mean, we have 19 trillion in debt, and we're losing a fortune. We just can't afford to do the things we're doing. And a lot of changes will be made, believe me.
We've got a lot of alleged experts who think that Wisconsin somehow is make or break. I don't agree with that, and we'll talk about that in a second. But since this is the first time you and I have had a one-on-one, I want to ask you a few other things. You're a guy who I've been aware of. I grew up in Palm Beach County, Florida. I'm originally from Metro New York, so I've been aware of you for a long, long time, and certainly a fan of your success. You're worth $10 billion. You've got a beautiful family. You've got a fortune that people can never imagine. You've got a business that people can only dream of even getting close to having 1/10 of 1% of the success. Why do this to yourself? Why are you running? What was it that made you say, I've got the world by the ass, but I'm going to stop now and go run for president and become a target?
Well, you're right. I can't tell you how many times I get asked about that question, even by my family. They say, "Why?
I'll
Why?"
bet.
You know, I get up at 6 in the morning and I'm heading to some place, and they say,
Right.
"Why are you doing this?" Look, it's I think pretty simple. My whole theme is "Make America Great Again,"
Yeah.
and it's a theme that is something I really believe in, and that's what we're going to do. I've done so great in this country, and the country is going wrong. I mean, the country is going so bad. We're losing all of our business. We're losing our jobs. We're losing our money. You look at Carrier left, and I mean, all these companies are leaving. Ford is building massive plants in
Right.
Mexico. Pfizer is moving to Ireland. Many companies are moving to Asia. We're not going to have anything left. And I know how to stop it in 2 seconds. And the politicians won't do it because they're all taken care of by donors and special interests that all benefit by watching these moves take place. I mean, but the people of this country don't benefit. And so I know how to fix it so easy, that aspect of it. And even, the nuclear. I'm doing so good on nuclear by people that are fair, but what's happening now is we're paying for we're like the world's policemen, but
Right.
they don't pay us for it. We lose a fortune on the military. You know, our military budget is phenomenally higher than any other budget, but it's not for us. We're protecting everybody else. And we lose a fortune on that. Frankly, Joe, we lose a fortune in everything we do.
Right.
And we have to make our country strong financially again. And if we don't do that, we're never going to have a strong country again. And I'll save Social Security. I'll save things that everyone else says can't be saved because I'll bring back all this money that we're wasting on other countries. Who can afford to help out? I mean, these are rich countries. You look at
Right.
South Korea, you look at Japan, you look at Germany. I mean, most people don't even know we're protecting them. But they don't pay we're losing so much money. And we can't do it. We just can't do it anymore. So I will change it around, turn it around, renegotiate trade deals, renegotiate military deals, and we're going to have a country like you wouldn't believe.
It's presidential front runner on the Republican side, Donald Trump. He's got the majority of the delegates, and you're fewer than 500 away from getting the actual nomination. And
Right.
we'll talk about that further in a second. I talked to your son Eric a couple of weeks ago, and what a great guy. And Ivanka obviously is wonderful, and Don Jr. is wonderful. All of your kids are so incredibly well adjusted. You mentioned that your family said, "Dad, why are you doing it?" Half the time when you leave. But I wonder, why aren't your kids? It's going to sound like a stupid question, but it's not. Why are your kids not the Kardashians? And by that I mean they could be a bunch of wild children. They could be acting out. They could not be focused on business. They could just be living off of the money. How did you raise them in such a way, being a billionaire? Because it would have been easy to go the opposite way. Why are they
Right.
not on
Well,
TMZ every day? Why are they not in the tabloids?
Right. Well, education was always very important to me. Where I grew up and where I went to the Wharton School of Finance, and education was a very big thing for me. And it's very hard to be successful without education, and that was one. Number two, I kept them away from the drugs and the alcohol
Right.
and the different things because those are real exit signs on the highway. Let me tell you, on the highway to success.
Right.
When you look at what's going on, I see friends of mine, Joe, have children, very smart children, top of the line, but they become alcoholics, they become drug addicts, and
Right.
it's over. They won't be able to compete. It's just over. Or, I mean, some of them get better, some of them recover fully, although it's very hard. But they have problems. And I would always say no drugs, no alcohol, and I'd always add in no cigarettes. You know, if you can avoid the cigarettes,
Oh,
it's
yeah.
a good thing. It's like I don't smoke. I was never tempted to smoke, but I have friends that are very strong people. They can't quit. You know, they just can't quit. They're powerful, strong people, but they're not strong enough to stop. So, but if you don't start, I mean, when I look at a cigarette, there's no interest, okay? So I say no smoking. And I would always say those three things to them. And I'd say, I'm sorry, no drugs, no alcohol, no cigarettes. And from the time they're little. And I've been, thus far lucky. Now, let's talk in 10 years. Let's see if it keeps
Yeah,
going.
I understand, but I mean, also as children of privilege, how did you keep them motivated to do so well in business? They all appear to work very hard.
Well, they do, and they like it, and they're hard workers, and part of it, and I always tell people, you have to love what you do. They love what they're doing, and
Yeah.
I think I've done a good job in making it interesting for them. And they're actually a little bit helping me on the campaign. I say, run the business, but they do on occasion, like you spoke to Eric, who's a great guy, and they're helping me on the campaign. But they're really great kids, and a lot of people call me and they say, could you speak to my children, because of what's happened with my children.
It's presidential frontrunner Donald Trump. Really a pleasure to have you. Let's talk about the border. You brought this up last June. You started this conversation. You didn't use the word illegal, but you, Donald, and I, and everybody who's got half a brain knew you were talking about illegal immigration, not about legal immigration.
Right.
This conversation is being had in the country, and somehow, and this freaks people out, somehow you've got Sheriff Joe Arpaio, you've got Jan Brewer, who's the former governor of Arizona,
Right.
and now you've got the Border Patrol Union backing you. I mean, that
Right.
is making people's heads spin. Did you expect this, or are you surprised that you're getting so much support?
Well, I'm really a little surprised. I'm by far the strongest on the border. Other you wouldn't get Sheriff Joe and Jan,
Yeah.
and the Border Patrol has
Right.
never supported a presidential candidate before. They've never done this before, and I didn't seek their support. I never even thought of it. We got a call last week, and they say we would love to endorse you because I'm the only one that talks their language. They're fantastic people. These are
Right.
people that want to do the job, and they're told not to. And they're professionals, and they want to do their job, and they can do their job almost easily. They're so good, but they're not allowed to do their job. I mean, from day one, when I get in, I'm just going to say, do your job, and without the wall, I'm saying before the wall, we're going to build a wall.
Yeah.
Believe me, you need it with the drugs and everything else.
Right.
But, it's going to take a while to build it. Before it even happens, you're going to see a tremendous change because these people are so good. So they supported me and endorsed me. So, it's my issue. And now, if you notice, the other candidates are trying to get tough on the border
Right.
and tough on this and that. And, all of a sudden I heard Ted Cruz the other day say, oh, we must build a wall. Well, where has he been for the last 5 years?
It's
It's an amazing set of circumstances. But I appreciate you mentioning that.
Well, I'm
actually.
sitting in South Texas. I'm in San Antonio, and this is where I'm based. And as you know,
Right.
the show is national. But I've got a lot of Border Patrol agents that not only listen, but they call in, and they're near frustration and tears because, as you said, they're told by the federal government, yes, these are the laws, but if you catch somebody here illegally, you got to let them go. If you catch somebody here illegally, and don't let them go on the other side of the border, Donald. They're saying let them go here in America, and maybe we'll give them a summons, and maybe we'll find them later. We're giving them jobs. They're competing with Americans who are out of work. Can you really, as you say, get in office and say, that's it, here are the laws, do it, we're going to turn that tide today?
100%. And one of the very early calls I'm going to make is to Mexico, because I'm going to be telling the leaders of Mexico that you better stop it. Because what they're doing to us, they're just sending them over. Believe me, what I said that first day, they could stop this easier than our people could
Right.
stop it, okay? And, if you want to go into Mexico, you can't. But it's like a track that runs right into our country. Go ahead, from all over the place. I mean, they just come from all over. And by the way, it's a good path for the Middle East to use, if you want to know the truth, because
Right.
it's like a piece of Swiss cheese. Mexico could stop it. If you want to become a citizen of Mexico, it's one of the hardest places in the world. It's almost impossible, right? And yet,
Absolutely.
with us, you're born on our land. They send somebody over, has the baby on our land. Congratulations, they're a citizen of the United States. I mean, we just run so stupidly. It's just inconceivable. Try that with Mexico. Have somebody go over, have a baby on Mexico land, say, aren't we a citizen of Mexico? And watch them laugh at you in your face, okay? It's just, the double standard is incredible. And then they mock us if we do anything that's a little tough. But if we said, well, you do it, and they would say, you must be kidding. So we're run by people that don't get it. I don't know, it's a lack of street smarts, it's a lack of intelligence, to be honest with you, but it's just a horrible situation.
It's presidential frontrunner on the Republican side, Donald Trump, 740 some odd, maybe 750 some odd. I've seen a couple of different numbers as far as how many delegates you have, but you're well in the lead, fewer than 500 away from the nomination. We'll talk about the nomination in a second. You mentioned the Middle East. President Obama a couple of days ago said the Iran deal is working so well. Look, Iran is already benefiting. And he said that, Donald, as if that's a good thing. I don't want Iran to benefit. I don't think the deal should have happened, just like you don't think it should have happened. I think that we should have benefited, or the free world should have benefited. The president is so disconnected that he's actually touting the praises of a deal most of us hate. How do you go in and make us strong again as a leader in the world? And can you go in and tear that deal up immediately and tell Iran, we're going to have to do something different?
You can, and what you do is you renegotiate that deal, and if they don't renegotiate, first of all, they've already violated the deal with the missiles and everything else they've done, so it's already violated. I would never want to tear a deal up, that was made by a former president. I wouldn't want to do that, but the deal's already in violation, so therefore you can tear it up.
Right,
okay?
right.
It's a lot easier. I mean, they violated that deal so many different ways. I mean, we have a clause, for instance, that they can't invest in this country. They can't. Therefore, they don't buy planes. Well, let me tell you, they bought 118 Airbus planes, no Boeing planes. Wow. Why wasn't that money that we gave, $150 billion, why isn't it being spent in our country? It's not being spent in our country, okay? We should have insisted that it be spent in our country. Jobs, right? Jobs. We have people that are such rank amateurs. A book was written, Amateur Hour, and that's exactly what it is. It's amateur hour.
The thing is, he's walking around, he's going around the world and basically apologizing for us. He has made us weaker purposely. It's almost as though he hates our exceptionalism. And it's very comparable to what we saw with Jimmy Carter in the late 70s, and Ronald Reagan had to come in and restore nationalism and have us chant USA, USA, USA again. We're not proud of our country. You can't press a button and fix that. What do you do when you get in office? I mean, first things first, you probably have to get people jobs, no?
Well, the one thing we have to do is we have to be cheerleaders a little bit. One thing I thought he'd be a good cheerleader, and he's turned out to be a terrible cheerleader.
Right.
We at least have to be cheerleaders, Joe. And, as a president, we have to be a cheerleader. And the country doesn't have a lot of spirit. I go out, I get thousands and thousands of people show up, and these people are showing up because they're angry and they're unhappy and they can't believe how badly, they love the country. And they're not angry people, but they're angry about the way we're run and where our country's going, where it's headed. And it's very, very sad when you see it. But bottom line, here's the thing. The trade deals I'll renegotiate. The military deals I'm going to renegotiate. And by the way, you have to be prepared to walk. Yeah. I mean, it's possible that if Japan doesn't want to pay up, we'll say good luck and defend yourself. And if that means they're going to have to arm in some way, they're going to have to arm in some way, Joe. But we can't afford to we're paying for the military of Japan.
Right.
And every time this maniac in North Korea, I mean, it's a bigger problem for them than it is for us, frankly. Every time this maniac in North Korea raises his head, we start doubling up. And, at what point do people take care of us? We're a debtor nation. Our country's falling apart. Our infrastructure is dying. We owe all of this, trillions of dollars. 19 is going to be 21 very soon with that stupid budget that was just passed 3 months ago, the omnibus budget. I mean, at what point do we say enough? Enough.
True.
No, at what point? Now, you have to be prepared. Now, I'd rather, they totally mischaracterize what I say. I would rather defend Japan because I don't love them, arming, but honestly, at some point, we're just not able to do it. Now, what I think will probably happen is they'll pay much more money and we'll protect them. I mean, that's fine. I like that solution. But we can't do it for what we're getting now because we're getting clobbered economically, and our country's falling apart. And we're on top of a big bubble. You watch.
Republican presidential frontrunner Donald Trump on the line. Donald, you mentioned the debt, $19 trillion now, $21 trillion soon. Even if you were to get, if you were to win the presidency and you had both houses of Congress agree that we need a balanced budget amendment, you never paid down $21 billion or $21 trillion with a balanced budget amendment. How do you start paying that down as a businessman? How do you get into your CEO office in Washington and fix it?
I love that question because that's one of my strengths, and I tell you, I just love it. First of all, waste, fraud, and abuse. The waste is unbelievable. The fraud and abuse, unbelievable. I would put great people at the head of agencies. I would put great people in government. I mean, if they could cut budgets 2 or 3%, which is very easy. If
right.
I put you in charge of a massive agency, and if I said, Joe, cut it 3%, and you're not a business person, although you probably are, based on the phenomenal amount of money you're making, okay?
Right.
For having a very highly rated show.
Thank you.
But if I put you in charge, you'd be able to cut it 3%. They never cut. Every year it goes up, up, up. It never stops. But I would negotiate new trade deals, and I would stop defending the world unless they paid us. Why are we defending Saudi Arabia, one of the richest countries in the world? Frankly, a country that prior to the oil, collapse, which frankly they're still making a lot of money, but prior to the oil collapse, Saudi Arabia, they were making $1 billion a day, and we defend them, and they don't pay us nearly what they should be paying us.
And they don't necessarily love us either, Donald. They don't necessarily like us so much.
Yeah, they don't like us so much. And you know what? With me, they're going to like us, and they're going to pay more. They're going to be very happy, okay?
It's presidential.
And by the way, I'm prepared to walk. If they don't, I'm prepared to walk.
And that's something
you know
that
what?
this
when
president
I walk,
isn't.
They're going to call me up the next morning, and they're going to say, okay, we'll do it.
And that's something
because
Reagan
they're
did.
not going to sit out there. Joe, they're not going to sit out there alone.
I agree.
They'll say, okay, you got up, you walked, and please come back. Let's make a deal. Okay, that's what I do for a living.
Wisconsin is coming up on Tuesday. 42 delegates. It's not make or break. You don't have to win it. It's not winner take all either. It's some sort of a combination of winner take all and plurality this and majority that. Either way, you were leading in Wisconsin very easily by a lot. And now it's gotten very, very tight. Some polls say it's tied. There are some polls that I'm sure you've seen, Fox Business and others, that say Cruz actually pulled out by 10 points. Many people say that the difference in Wisconsin is because of that ridiculous question that Chris Matthews asked you. I'm not going to ask you the question because it was hypothetical and it was stupid. I really don't believe the question had any merit whatsoever, and the guy's not a journalist. But having said that,
right.
Why continue to go on any NBC property after what CNBC did in that one debate that was disgusting, and then you go on MSNBC and you have to expect to be attacked? Why even go? It only benefits them. How does it benefit you?
It was a hypothetical question. A lot of people thought my answer was excellent, by the way. Okay, there were a lot of people who thought that was a very good answer. It was a hypothetical question. I didn't see any big deal, and then all of a sudden there was somewhat of a storm. And it's interesting. And this morning, I'm hearing two hosts on television that were critical, and they said, "Well, we really thought his first answer was very good." And yet, because you can't win. We thought it was good. What was wrong with his first answer, et cetera, et cetera? And I heard a pastor, who's a fantastic pastor, saying, well, if you think about it, his first answer was right.
Well, your answer was consistent with conservatism, but Chris Matthews has an agenda. So I'm not even wondering about the question because I thought it was loaded and stupid and hyhypothetical.
Well,
why go on the show?
I heard people
go?
defending it today. Now they defend it. Okay,
yeah.
Now they say, well, it was really right. And the whole thing is just so. Look, the press is extremely unfair. A lot of very terrible people. But it is interesting with NBC. Not only that, I made NBC a fortune with The Apprentice, an absolute fortune with The Apprentice. But they've all got agendas, and I understand that. And frankly, they're bad, but they're sort of all bad. I mean, I don't get treated well on Fox. I don't get treated well on CNN.
It seems to be hit and miss. It does. And I got to tell you, I know that you're very, very busy, and you've given me a lot of time, and we'll wrap it up in a second. But I've got to tell you, I'm a former journalist. I've won many, many awards. When I saw the question that Megyn Kelly asked you in the first debate, what bothered me about the question, and I see why it bothered you, is that there was no context. Was it fair to ask you about this battle with Rosie or that thing that you said in The Apprentice? Maybe, but only if you form it in context. There was no context there. I
thought it was a disgusting question. It was almost a statement more than a question.
No, and you're right. I agree with you, but let me just wrap around this because I think that you'll get where I'm going. Had she said to you, Rosie O'Donnell made fun of you on The View, and then you reacted, do you want to defend your reaction? Or when you were on The Apprentice, it said something to Brandy, who's a former model and whatever, and it was a different context. Do you want to comment on that? But it wasn't presented that way. It was presented that you're a misogynist, and I understand why you reacted that way. Had she formed the question the way I just did, would it have been okay?
would have been much different, and I think it would have been okay. You know, when they went to Brandy, who's a wonderful person, when they went to Brandy, she didn't say, she said, "Oh, I didn't know that was on. I never really knew. Does it bother you?" No, not at all. I mean, it's part of entertainment.
Right.
What are you going to do?
Right.
So, you know, there was a lot of it. They don't hear that. They hear the horrible question with that face that was so angry.
Right.
You know, it was also, you know, she looked at me. She looked so angry. And it was a hit job. You know,
it was
a
out of
hit
context. There was no context there at all.
And let me tell you, she does her whole show last night. Her whole show, almost every skit, and I call it a skit, but almost every segment is about Trump. She does Trump. Then she does, okay, and we'll be back in 2 minutes for more on Donald Trump about this.
Right.
I mean, one after another after another. And then she gets good ratings. Let me tell you, if she didn't have me on her show, she would bomb like, she would drop like a rock, I will tell you that.
It is presidential frontrunner on the Republican side, Donald Trump. Do you win Wisconsin? And if so, how do you get over the hump? Because a lot of polls are starting to say it's close. If not, you're trailing a little bit.
I don't know if I win it, but I'll be out there pitching, and I'll make Wisconsin much stronger, much better. People don't realize Wisconsin's not doing well. They're losing a lot of jobs. They're losing a lot of business. And, you know, this governor's got him buffaloed. You know why he failed in his presidential bid? Because I read his statistics for Wisconsin. That's why he failed. I'm the one that got him out, so I obviously I didn't ask for his endorsement.
Right.
But I'm the one that got him out. And the reason, Joe, that he got out, and he got out early. I mean, he was number one. He was leading, and then I started hitting him, because he hit me first, by the way. But I started hitting him, and once they heard the numbers, he was gone. He was absolutely gone. And then, so I'm not surprised to see he's going for Cruz, who he can't stand, by the way, but I wasn't surprised at all to see he's going for Cruz. But look, I'm going to be in there pitching. I have a very positive pitch, and the pitch is very simple. It's make America great again, and if that doesn't work, we have to live with it. But we're going to make America great again. We're going to bring jobs and trade and everything else back to the United States, but also back to Wisconsin, which is doing very, very poorly.
It's presidential frontrunner Donald Trump. A couple of more quick ones, and then I'll let you go. And I really appreciate you taking the time, Donald. Thank you so much. Obviously, you're the front runner, but obviously you have the best chance of getting the 1237 that you need. If you don't get it, though, you have the power as a businessman and as a negotiator. I know that personally there's an issue, and you guys have been going at it. But if you and Ted Cruz were to team up, let me just ask the question before you tell me how stupid I am. If you and Ted Cruz were to sit down and team up, you could steamroll the Democrats, you could steamroll Reince Priebus and the RNC, and this whole open convention garbage could never happen. Do you foresee, as a deal maker, ever having the ability to sit down with Cruz and saying, look, if we team up, we can smoke everybody who's in our way?
Well, I think maybe now it's certainly not the right time to talk about it, and I think it would be probably difficult. It's something I haven't given any thought to be honest. I'm looking to win it, and then pick somebody that will be terrific, and I'm not even saying he's not, terrific, but he and I have a lot of disputes on different things, and I just don't think it's something that would be in the cards right now. Absolutely.
Well, last thing, as I said, I'm from New York. You're from New York. My mother's from Jamaica, Queens. I was born. Wow. I was born in Copiague.
From Jamaica too.
Oh, really? Okay. Yeah. Well, wonderful.
Yeah.
So I understand your language. You speak like I speak, like my father spoke, like my mother speaks. We speak very quickly. We come immediately. We give a reaction, and then maybe we'll change it a little while later. We come from the hip. We joke around. We make a face when we think that we want somebody to understand. Much of the country doesn't understand that, and they're starting to. I think that they're warming up to it, and your message certainly is resonating. Are you surprised that people so quickly took you out of context and didn't understand what you were saying and how you were saying it? And do you understand now that not everybody gets New York lingo?
Well, I don't think they really take me out of context. I think the press misquotes me a lot. Like, on the abortion issue, I think I've been so mistreated by so many different people. I mean, and if you put out a clarification, they say, oh, he changed. They make such a big deal out of it.
Right.
So I really think that the press largely misfits, and really, hold it 1 second. I'm just getting through. I'm just coming onto an airplane.
I understand.
I think the press really, really misrepresents, and it's extremely dishonest. And I think that's the biggest problem with the campaign is the dishonesty of the press. Actually.
Well, you're on your way to Wisconsin. You're on the way, certainly, to continue your lead, win or lose or tie in Wisconsin. And it's going to be very interesting to see when New York is in play, when other states start coming up. Donald, it's an absolute pleasure. I appreciate you taking the time, and hopefully we can do it again.
Well, thank you very much. I look forward to Wisconsin. New York is looking fantastic. New Jersey's looking fantastic, and so is Pennsylvania. So I think we're going to be in good shape, but we're going to see. And I'll speak to you during or after the whole thing is over, Joe. You are such a gentleman, and I appreciate it.
We will make America great again.